A little bit of time off. We got a big show today, and we're going to start with a FanDuel read and then get into a doctor explanation of Deshaun Watson's shoulder injury. But first, if you're looking to score early this NFL season, FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook and is the only sportsbook you should be using because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time than right now to get in on the action. The app is so easy to use. That's a McNugget promise. They have a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And here's our winning FanDuel ticket of the day. We got to get up on tagboard real quick, and if you want to give me a FanDuel ticket. But our guy, Kyle Schuler, hit a same-game parlay that turned $1 into $17. He bet more, could have won a lot more, a 17-1 cash out with a Denver money line. Javonte Williams anytime touchdown scorer. Cortland Sutton 45.5 receiving yards, over 3.5 receptions, and Javonte Williams over 55.5 rushing yards. That $1 bet won $17, but still a nice win there for our guy Kyle Schuler. If you have a winning FanDuel bet, tweet it at us. Showcase it on the show in the upcoming news.
First of all, Kyle is beating himself up for only betting $1 on that thing.
Yeah, I know. He is.
Instead of like $10.
10 would have given him 170.
Exactly. Number two, interestingly, people always talk about nobody respects the Browns. Well, Vegas does, because even though Deshaun Watson is out for the season and not playing in this game, the line has not changed that much.
No,
it's changed. It was 3.5 before Deshaun Watson's injury, and right now it's 1.5. I'm looking at FanDuel right now.
Yeah.
It's 1.5. I'm surprised. I thought it would be a pick 'em, or maybe even the Steelers might become the favorite.
Well, that was kind of the root of our discussion and disagreement yesterday, was that I felt like this doesn't it definitely lowers their chances. But it doesn't eliminate their chances of winning the AFC.
I think it's significantly.
The more I thought about it yesterday, the more I dug in on that.
All right. I hope you're right. I think it certainly does significantly change their chances.
It does.
Vegas has.
It doesn't eliminate them.
Updated the odds. It doesn't eliminate them, though. I agree.
I told her, I got the Browns winning AFC North. It's just, I actually got the Browns smoking the Steelers tomorrow or on Sunday. It ain't not even close like that.
See, I have it close, low scoring, and I think that's the formula to keep winning the rest of the year. Okay. You talked to a doctor. Was this yesterday or today?
Yeah, so yesterday afternoon, myself and G. Bush, we sat down and had a long chat with Dr. Jesse Mortz. He is a sports physician who specializes in athlete injuries, and he does a phenomenal job explaining in easy, simple-to-understand terms difficult medical situations. So we talked to him about Deshaun Watson. We're going to play about a 5-minute clip of that interview. If you want to see the full interview, it is on our YouTube page right now. The full 13-minute explanation from Dr. Jesse Mortz is on our YouTube page. But right now, here's a little 5-minute snippet of our conversation to give you guys a better understanding of exactly what Deshaun Watson is dealing with.
Very good.
Would you look at that, G? We transported from behind the glass to the chairs, and that's because we have a very special guest joining us now. It is Dr. Jesse Mortz, a sports physician, to help us kind of understand the injury that Deshaun Watson has suffered. Doctor, I know you specialize in this kind of thing. It's a glenoid fracture. What does that mean for people like myself who are not medical professionals?
So unfortunately, Deshaun has another new injury that is not really connected to his first injury, believe it or not. This one is a glenoid fracture that is what we call displaced, and I'll describe that in a second. But the shoulder has basically two parts. You have the ball and socket joint, the main part of the shoulder, and then you have the AC joint, which a fair share of people injure as well. This is specifically to the ball and socket. The ball and socket has the upper arm, which is the ball, and then the socket itself is actually the glenoid, and the back part of the glenoid is the scapula or the shoulder blade. The problem here is that he likely suffered a dislocation and popped the ball out of the socket. But what happened was he actually fractured a little piece of the rim, and it came off with it. And now he has a piece of that bone separated from the main part of the bone. And that's why they call it displaced. That's a very important word, and that's the reason why he can't return this year.
You know, doctor, when we talk about it, and you take he has a bone and it's dislocated from the other piece. We had some comments that came out that Deshaun wanted to just shoot it up and play. What would have been some of the downsides to just trying to play through an injury like this, and what is the long-term ramifications of somebody trying to play through another season or the rest of the season with this type of injury?
So unfortunately, because it's displaced, it wouldn't have been able to stabilize his shoulder. He would have had, that piece would have started to rub and tear against the labrum, causing further labral damage. And it also would have tore against the cartilage inside on the glenoid and on the humerus. And when that happens, that's going to cause arthritis. That's going eventually. That will cause it. And the problem is that won't go away. Eventually, that would have wore his shoulder down so much so that he would have had throbbing, aching, swelling, just pain constantly. And there's not a whole lot you can do to do that, to fix that. And eventually, he probably would have had to have a shoulder replacement.
So what you're saying is the fact he went 14 for 14 in the second half, a near perfect performance despite hurting his shoulder in the second quarter, is he maybe even more remarkable than we kind of gave it credit for in the moment. Had to be a
yeah. I mean, from what Coach said, it was before the half that he actually suffered it. We saw him leave. Walker went on the field for that deep throw, and Deshaun also confirmed to have a left high ankle, kind of a moot point at this point, but that's why he left the game, as far as we know. But in actuality, it's probably before the injury, before the halftime. So that means he basically came out and played the second half. But remember, he's hot. There's plenty of adrenaline going. He probably had some discomfort, but it wasn't enough for him to be concerned. But when he shuts the thing down, the inflammation starts, and then you finally realize, hey, there's a piece of bone that's dislodged, and the labrum's probably beat up. There's just no way that you can safely send him back. A, because it's going to be just not safe, and B, because of how much money he's owed, and just it's a throwing shoulder injury. It's not like it's his non-throwing shoulder. In that regard, maybe you give him a week or two, or put a brace on him, and it's fine. But you can't do that with a throwing shoulder, unfortunately.
Doctor, moving forward, the timetable, we look at it. He missed a lot of time with the the other injury, and obviously he had the micro tear. What's the timetable for the recovery of something like this?
So the good news is that he should be pretty much good by OTAs. He shouldn't have any issues. Depending on how aggressive they are, I'm assuming they'll be very aggressive. They'll probably have surgery today or tomorrow. The only question we don't have is how much of his labrum is torn. My suspicion is, and you can Google this if you want, that the specific definition of what he had is what we call a bony Bankart, Bankart lesion, which basically means you dislocate the shoulder, you pop a piece of in order to hold the ball, to hold in the socket, the labrum actually holds that ball in the socket. So the only way it can pop out is if you tear the labrum and allow it to pop out. Well, normally they pop out without any issues. This time, unfortunately, there was so much force that it actually popped out and pulled a piece of bone with it. So the question is, how much do they have to repair of the labrum? And so that's kind of the determining factor. Usually 6 months, they do really well. At 9 or 10 months, I think I'm not overly concerned. This one should be, the data-wise, is pretty good. Not very common. This is a pretty rare injury for a throwing quarterback, but it can happen, obviously. And I'm not expecting a whole lot of changes. He'll have to work on his mechanics and so on and so forth after he comes back. But I think he'll be he'll be good to go probably by June, July of next year.
Beautiful. That is Dr. Jesse Mortz. You can follow him at Twitter at Dr. Jesse Mortz. We appreciate the insight, knowledge, and hopefully we don't have to talk to you soon, because when we talk to you, it means something bad happened to the Browns. Doctor, we appreciate it. Best of luck.
My pleasure. Take care.
Good job, guys.
Yeah.
Good information there from the doctor. The one thing that we should point out is he hasn't seen any of the scans. He hasn't seen any of the MRIs. He's talking in generalizations. So in general, injuries like this.
I mean, it's an educated opinion,
obviously. Yes, he definitely has an educated
yeah.
opinion. But I know typically doctors don't love talking about specific injuries that they haven't looked at and examined the patient.
Everybody has said that this is an uncommon injury for a football player.
Yeah.
And so I don't think we know how he's going to come back from this at all. We're going to spend the entire offseason wondering when he's coming back, when he's going to start to practice, and what he's going to be like when he does. He has missed so much time now. And listen, what are you going to do? I mean, it's just unfortunate.
Injuries happen.
But by the time we see him next year, and his opinion, at first he said OTAs earlier, but then at the end he goes,
he
should be back by June or July. So that means,
that's not OTAs.
Yeah, so if he's right, now again, we don't know, but if he's right that he's not back till June, well, that means he misses the entire offseason program. Now, this is where another quarterback that's played a lot, I wouldn't think it was a big deal. But considering how much practice time he's missed over the last 3 years, how much game time he's missed over the last 3 years, we're going to be talking about this all offseason, what to expect from Deshaun Watson next year, and there's really no way to know.
Well, when he comes back,
I'm concerned.
If he plays the first 7 games of next year, that'll be the first time in over 3 years that he's been able to play 7 straight football games.
Yeah.
That's a little concerning.
Yeah. You know why I'm not concerned? Because I see what his makeup is. I see that Deshaun Watson's going to put the work in to get where he needs to be. I understand that he can pay through a high pain threshold, and on top of it, they have a. This is the reason why DTR playing this week is important, because if DTR gets an opportunity to play throughout this season, Browns make playoffs, he's going to be a guy that's going to be taking all the reps, all of the snaps and OTAs, and good, because guess what? He has experience doing it. That's your second quarterback. And Deshaun, I don't think we need to go through the thing of forcing him and rushing him to get back. I think the two things that's going to take a lot of patience for Browns players, Browns fans, and everyone out there is the two questions. What is Nick Chubb doing, and what is Deshaun Watson doing?
Right.
There's going to be a lot of questions about both of those guys this
offseason. The whole offseason. So you got to be patient with that.
And a part of that will also be, depending on how DTR plays, will be, like, if DTR plays pretty well, then okay, we're fine. You're going to move forward with him as your number 2 guy.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't play well, let's say they go with him and PJ Walker the rest of the season, they're both not good. Then in the offseason, part of the conversation is the Browns got to get a veteran quarterback to be in the mix, right?
They need one.
Now, and again, hopefully it doesn't come to that, because hopefully he plays really well. But that could be part of the offseason conversation.
I actually believe whether DTR looks good or not, I think the Browns need to invest more money into that position, because once again, we said it when he heard it the first time. You don't understand. You don't know if he comes in.
Well, I think if DTR looks good, he's your backup.
Yes.
Right.
But barring him coming in and playing really well these last 8 games of the season, I think you definitely have to make an investment.
Even if the Browns win, like, they won games with P.J. Walker in spite of him, not because of him.
He was not the reason they won.
If they win a few more games and they get to the playoffs and they are somehow able to get through that way, in spite of P.J. Walker, in spite of DTR, you still got to think about it. If he's contributing to them winning, then we're not as worried about it in the offseason.
Exactly. But
that's a big difference.
Then you're where every other team is in terms of a backup quarterback.
Exactly.
Someone that you feel if you had to come in a pinch.
Right.
The Browns right now with P.J. Walker did not have that guy that they felt comfortable taking reps on. Interesting recommendation here. If it's an ESPN Plus article, so it's behind their paywall. But Dan Graziano wrote a fascinating piece about Deshaun Watson's contract, the implications of that contract, both for the Browns, and there was a lot of chatter after the contract was signed. In fact, Bisciotti came out with the Ravens owner came out and said, was critical of the Browns, saying they shouldn't have done this. There were some that thought that this would, reconfigure the pay structure in the NFL. It did not.
Nope.
And Graziano's basic premise is, if this thing had worked early on and was a huge success in the first 2 or 3 years, teams might have looked at it and said, well, maybe this is the way you got to do business. But because of the way it's worked out, because the first 2 years of the 5-year deal have not been what they had hoped, he said that this just further entrenches the thought that teams are good giving 3 years guaranteed and working for the 4th and 5th and having options just because it didn't go the way the Browns had hoped it would.
I do think it changed the pay scale some. It didn't fully change it.
It didn't change the guaranteed part of it.
It did to some degree. Guys got more, like Lamar and Burrow got a lot more guaranteed than I think they would have before Watson.
Fully guaranteed.
No.
And there was some concern in NFL circles, especially amongst general managers,
right,
that, oh, hell, this is the new way of doing business.
Some would argue it should be, that players should get fully guaranteed.
Well, listen, that's a different argument altogether.
Right, but
now look,
yeah.
Because of the way and we're 40% through the contract,
right,
and we know what it's given us. So there's still, the last 60%, you could hit pay dirt on that. It's like you've got 5 scratch-off windows on a ticket. First 2 were null and void. You got 3 to go. You could hit pay dirt in one of those.
Right.
And if they do, then they'll reassess the way they look at guaranteed contracts. But right now, particularly the way it's worked out, nobody in the NFL is saying, well, this is what we have to do.
But in the end, in my opinion, sorry to cut you off, G, the only reason Joe Burrow maybe didn't get his last year fully guaranteed is because he was willing to do that.
Sure,
right. If Joe Burrow had said, you're guaranteeing me the whole thing or I'm not signing, they would have had to do it.
Well, look, Lamar did that, and he didn't win. Lamar wanted full guarantees, and the Ravens didn't get it to him.
He's always been a flawed case study, though. He plays the
doesn't
game
have an
different.
agent.
He didn't have an agent, and he runs the ball in the way he plays.
Sure.
And he's shown that he can't be durable. But
if Mahomes coming up,
if Pat Mahomes says I want guaranteed, they're just going to be like, all right,
because if they don't give it to him, they don't give it to him, somebody else will.
Now the difference there is you're talking about the premier quarterback,
absolutely,
the guy, the Tom Brady of this generation.
And if he's the Tom Brady, I believe Burrow could be the Peyton Manning, and he could have got that.
Burrow's guarantee was it was basically the same as Watson, only slightly below.
It was
the
below.
guarantee.
Yeah,
the total contract, which he'll get unless he has a devastating injury, is more, but his guarantee was slightly below.
Your throw in there, unless he gets a devastating injury. Because of what's gone on with Watson, and I'm not even talking about all the allegations last year. They knew what that was.
Yeah.
This is a pop quiz. They didn't bargain for this. This wasn't on the table.
No, of course.
Now look, when you sign a quarterback that runs, and that's a big part of his game, that's part of the risk reward that you have to weigh into the equation. But I think the reason teams want to give themselves some flexibility with that 4th or 5th year is because injuries. This is a gladiator sport.
You never know.
Injuries happen.
Let me ask y'all a question. If Deshaun Watson comes back next year, say he comes back off the injury, everything's fine, then win the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Do you think he'll get another guaranteed contract?
No.
Even if he wins the Super Bowl here?
Partly because of age at that point.
How old is he now?
Well, he'll be 30.
I think he's around 30 right now.
Yeah,
isn't he?
And look, that doesn't mean that someone 24 won't get one.
Yeah.
This
Deshaun's
contract.
28, by the way.
This contract.
He's 28.
Oh, he's only 28.
He just turned 28
So
in September.
He'll be 30 when this is done. Guys in their 30s typically don't get 5 years.
Actually,
and
he'll
I
be
can't
31.
imagine giving guaranteed for 5 years.
I think it would be 3 years maybe.
Well, he'll be
31. He'll have turned 31 in his last season of the contract.
He'll be 31, going into his 32nd year.
Plus, the Browns were.
I just don't think it's going to happen.
The Browns were in a different situation where they were trying to acquire the player. Now he's already here.
Yeah,
that's what put the Browns in a position where they had to spend more money because he had options.
Sure.
At that time,
and he had already told them not interested.
Right.
Remember the timeline of how that played out.
Listen, that'd be a good problem to have to worry about if he wins the Super Bowl next year. And
all Browns fans would love to have
to
worry about that right there. All right, we've had some time to think about it. I had said briefly that the more I thought about it yesterday, the more I convinced myself that the sky is not fallen upon us. It's not a good break. It is definitely going to affect the way the season plays out. But for me personally, I think Deshaun Watson wasn't the strength of this team anyhow. Deshaun Watson is not the reason this team is 6-3. He's had a hand in it, but to me, if I'm going to start handing out flowers, it's the defense.
I agree to a point, but if DTR and P.J. Walker, some combo of those two guys, had played these 9 games, I do not believe the Browns are 6-3. Do you?
Wait, they have played some of these 9 games.
They have played some. I'm saying if they had played all of them.
No,
I don't think the Browns are 6-3 right now.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think he's the reason for them being 6-3. I think he's had a pretty big hand in it. But I also watched this team with P.J. Walker beat the team that we thought was unbeatable. And now, granted, the Niners
right,
did
but we can pick up the anomalies all we want. I don't think they beat the Ravens with P.J. Walker last week.
Well, I don't either. And
It certainly makes a difference. The Browns' chances of making the playoffs, to me, dropped significantly. I still think they have a reasonable chance to make the playoffs because of the position they're in. The difference for me is not necessarily it's just looking to the playoffs. Again, I hope I'm wrong, and if DTR plays well, I'll probably feel differently. But at this moment in time, I just don't feel like they can make a run in the playoffs.
Run into playoffs, that's easy money. I did a blog the other day. You halfway there.
You go 4-4, you're in. He's saying a run in the playoffs.
Oh, in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's my thing. Here's why the Browns scare a bunch of teams. Like we keep saying it, and Leroy says it all the time. What travels? Defense, running game. The Browns were dominant. I went back and watched the Ravens game, the Ravens all 22 in the perspective of the Ravens. The Ravens, all 22 guys, the guys on the internet, they're like, listen, this Cleveland Browns team is scary, and we have nothing for them up front offensively or defensively. These are Ravens guys breaking the all 22 down. He said the way they run the football between the guards, we have no answer for Jadeveon Clowney, or Myles Garrett. Like, we have no answer for him. And the way that they play physically, they just look like they wanted more. David Njoku said something when he came on the show. He said a lot of people don't understand this. Like, we got something special brewing in here.
Yeah.
And when people start to have synergy and believe it, it's a different type thing. If you look at the Cleveland Browns and you say, okay, well, we beat the 49ers when everybody had crowned them. Everybody named mom crowned the Ravens. They said just the best team. They even promoted their defense above ours. They got beat at home. So if you looking around the league and you saying, okay, why can't we beat the Dolphins or the Jaguars in the first round?
Yeah, and to your point of you don't see them making a run, I'm going to ask you guys a question to assess the powers in the AFC this year compared to the last 4 years.
Well, I'll say this. If you look at, and I don't know that even Cincinnati's going to make the playoffs, but you look at Kansas City and you look at Baltimore and you look at Cincinnati and Miami.
Buffalo.
Buffalo. Forget Buffalo.
But Buffalo came into the season as one of the
what I'm talking about right now. Right now. Kansas City, Buffalo, Baltimore, and Miami. The Browns have a better defense than all those teams. But outside of Miami, they don't have a huge gap in the defense. Those teams all have miles better offenses without Deshaun Watson. It's not close. And
I would agree that they do.
Yes.
You're right. But this is the point I've been making most of this year. There's not an offense in the AFC this year that I look at and say, oh, we're in trouble against that team. Now, there's two of them in the NFC.
Yeah.
But in the AFC, and that's what's so weird to me, coming into this season, remember, we'd made a list of all the top quarterbacks in the AFC. Oh, it's going to be a gauntlet. Oh, how do you get through this? The way the season is played out, nobody's offense leaves me thinking they're going to put major points up against this Browns defense. So because of that, I just keep going back to this. The formula can be 17 to 14 wins.
Right, but
where I don't think last year that would have worked.
Maybe so. I don't think ultimately you can keep beating teams 17-14 like the Chiefs, the Bengals, and those teams in the playoffs. I don't think you can. I think they're going to have to get more offensively. However, the question is, really even to get to that point, is are you going to get adequate quarterback play or worst league in the football?
And that's
because if the Browns get adequate quarterback play, then I'm with you guys. I think they can beat teams in the playoffs.
Not what we've seen so far.
Let's face it, they got very lucky to beat the 49ers based on that quarterback play. They didn't get, I shouldn't say lucky, that because the other parts of the team performed, and that's why they won.
Well, there was luck involved. They missed a chippy field goal.
Exactly. And when you play that badly at that position, you're not usually going to beat a good team.
You're not.
And that's it. So if DTR, and that's why I'm glad they're playing him, because he's got some upside and PJ Walker has none. In fact, I shouldn't even say some upside. He may have huge upside. I don't know.
Right.
We haven't seen it. We've seen him one game, and he was not prepared for that game. But if DTR can play anywhere close to the level that Brock Purdy did last year, which I don't think is crazy to say, even though Purdy has better talent around him. I'm not asking him to play as well as Purdy. I'm asking him to play 3/4 of Purdy. If he plays 3/4 of what Purdy did, that would be adequate play. That would give the Browns a chance because their defense is great. But they can't afford to have quarterbacks throwing, 2-3 picks a game. They can't. They're not going to win consistently that way.
I know this is a tough assumption because the quarterback play, obviously, it's like your starting pitcher in baseball. What's he going to give you? Is he going to give you 7 scoreless, or is he going to give you 2 1/3 with 4 runs allowed? We don't know. That is the big question. But do you, in general, feel better now, 24 hours after we've digested this news, about the Browns' chances this season than you did when you first heard it?
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
To me, I just look at it like this. They've actually almost enhanced the defense because now the defense is in another mode. Now they're in another mindset right now. There is no way the defense is going to let Pittsburgh come in here and get a win. It just is what it is. Not to mention the fact that the Browns play lights out at home. They're going to go play Pittsburgh. They got Kenny Pickett, and the thing is, let's not act like we've gotten stellar quarterback play this whole year. I mean, we ain't seen a 300-game game yet.
But we still gotta admit that the Browns' chances of getting to where they want to go are not as good today as it was 2 days ago.
Of course.
Yeah, that's
You said something interesting, and maybe